Israeli hostage in Israel, Greta Thunberg, who is on another freedom flotilla to Gaza, is now claiming that she has been attacked by Israel, that her flotilla has been attacked. She and her friends are claiming that there was a drone attack 2 nights ago. Now, then there was. Okay, let's start with what they're claiming. They claim that there was a drone attack 2 nights ago, uh, and then a video showed that it wasn't a drone attack. We will see that video soon. They're stationed in Tunisia right now, an Arab dictatorship that fully supports the jihad against the Jews, and Tunisia itself called bullshit on the claim that that a drone attacked them. Uh, but this was still reported. In some places, this was reported as fact, not as a claim that they're claiming, but as this actually happened. So last night they thought, why not do it again? And once again, they claimed that they had been bombed by a drone. Now, again, we'll see the videos. Some of them are security footage from some of those ships. Very, very interesting. A lot of stuff around how they show the videos, what they show, when they show it from, and the fact that you cannot see a single drone, even though they have cameras everywhere all the time, and you only see, the aftermath of them shouting, "We've been hit." Welcome to the Daily Objective. I'm Razi Ginsburg. I'm joined by James Valiant. So many shows about Greta, and yeah, she's until we have a show titled Greta Meets Her 72 Virgins, I think this is gonna be part of our content for a while.
Well, these people are fact challenged, and facts really don't matter. Reality is not their concern. It is a classic case of what we objectivists call primacy of consciousness. If we say so, if we get people to believe so, then it is so. I really don't understand the mentality. Obviously, there's the overt fraud who knows he's just lying, and I think that has to play an aspect of this because she's not so cognitively impaired that she doesn't know what a lie is. On the other hand, notice the approach here. If we convince enough people, it's the noble lie. It's the really it is. It's the noble lie. We can you can find this doctrine in philosophers and in Christianity even, mind you. It's okay to tell a lie if it has great results. And so rather than form their view of reality based on facts, which is what we objectivists would call the primacy of existence approach to things, they're trying to snow people with the belief that, well, we're still doing something good, even if we're totally faking reality, even if we're lying. And what can you say? These people are, with all that having been said, they're relying upon the philosophical corruption of today to get away with this lie. The bottom line is, though, they're lying. These
Yeah,
people,
and
yeah,
in Islam specifically, it's called taqiyya, right? Where you actually, this is part of your duty as a Muslim is to lie as part of your jihad, your war to make the world
can
a
you imagine that?
Muslim place.
There's an ethical in among serious philosophers and among religious thinkers. These are ethical authorities saying it's perfectly cool to lie if it gets if it gets your goal. And yeah, wait a minute, it's reality versus your goals. Reality is real. Existence is existence, folks. No value can be obtained by faking reality. And that's exactly what these people are attempting to do. These people don't think that their values have to be reality based. They live in this world in which if they deceive enough people, mission accomplished, reality achieved. It's truly evil.
Yeah, and interestingly, the people on the flotilla, certainly Greta, they're not claiming to be Muslim in any way, but they do seem to adopt a lot of this, and it's not just the people who are joining the war effort against Israel as this flotilla is. Remember, if Israel actually targeted them, it is doing the right thing. This is an act of
Yeah,
war. It's an act of war during a wartime, a war that was started by the people that these people support, a war that the people who started insist on continuing, even though unfortunately Israel is offering them to end the war. Yeah, she is a part of a war effort. So the right thing to do against this flotilla, if not right now, then certainly when they enter Israeli waters and or within Israel's jurisdiction, is to sink those boats at the very least. And if you don't sink the boats, if you arrest them, don't send them back right away. Don't offer them the opportunity to watch Hamas's live streaming of October 7th. Force them to watch Hamas's live streaming of October 7th. But yeah, unfortunately, Israel is very, very soft on these people, which is why we know this is not true. But let's should we watch? Let's start with the Guardian video because the Guardian video, I think we have a couple of videos that might be very similar, but let's see the Guardian video because of an interview that we'll also see at the end of it.
Sí, castiga. ¡Wow! ¡Wow!
All right. Maybe we can pause it there because interestingly, you'll see the video at the top. In other versions, you see a bit more of it, and you actually see them, they're trying to work with that flare and apparently misfiring it and it landing on them. But yeah, that's none of that looks like what a drone attack would look like.
No, no. But notice in promoting this lie, what does that tell you about these people? They don't care what the facts are. They don't care about truth and justice. They're not interested in learning anything different. What they're interested in doing is fooling people into believing their line about Israel. And if there wasn't a welcoming audience out there for this. Now, it's Greta is obviously a fraud and part of the Palestinian war effort. There's no question. Israel has every right to blow them out of the water, as you indicated, because they're interfering with an active war zone. Insofar as they are a threat, Israel has every right. And just being a propagandist for the other side, just being a Tokyo Rose, if you will, for the other side, makes you part of the enemy war effort. She is more than a Tokyo Rose. We were talking about, whatever and whoever was not killed in Qatar the other day, it was a perfectly moral attack done by Israel. You see, there's no question we understand. Well, some of us understand what is involved in, quote, being part of the enemy's war effort. Here, again, there really should be no moral question about what's part of the Palestinian war effort. And Greta is an active part of that. She is supporting people who perpetrated October 7th, continue to attack Israel and try and kill as many Jews as possible. She's helping Hamas kill Jews. That's her point. Her point is to help Hamas be forever there and forever killing Jews. That's the bottom line. Now, news agencies have a moral responsibility not to promote lies, you would think in the first place, but they should, if they have any kind of conscience as journalists, look hard in the mirror. There are people actively out there obviously trying to lie to you. Don't get duped. And you would think that this would set a huge alarm bell off in them. No, we're going to treat all this stuff with a very skeptical eye from now on. You want to take odds on whether or not they're going to do that? They're going to continue to promote Hamas lies and Greta lies and other people's lies, precisely in the name of hating Israel. Bottom line, they hate Israel. Bottom line, they're anti-Semitic. Bottom line, they're for Hamas and its atrocities.
Thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. PB Law says they never planned to go to Israel. It was a financially motivated grift. They raised over 3.4 million and counting. By the way, it was a flare they set off themselves. Yeah, I don't know what I mean, look, they did go to Israel in on previous trips. And I did see some report, I think from the Israeli government suggesting that this one was actually funded at least in part by Hamas itself. So I don't know if directly, indirectly, it doesn't really matter. But yeah,
Now, that shouldn't even be allowed to happen. How is Hamas funding things? I mean, if you're in a, let's say, even a neutral country, let's say you've even taken a neutral stance, if you let citizens of your own get on the take of Hamas to engage in pro-Hamas propaganda, your citizens are involved in a war effort, a foreign war effort. They're compromising your neutrality as a nation. There should be consequences in their home nations, it seems to me, for interfering in a war zone to maintain the country's neutrality. But obviously, the country doesn't care. The host countries where they're sending these people out, they're perfectly willing to have their citizens actively support Hamas. That's what it is. That's what this is. And it's propaganda. It's lies. Not just propaganda. It's propaganda lies to support the enemy. That is part of the enemy war effort. You are an enemy of Israel if you are allowing your people to do this. Now that it's round two with her, you're right. Round one was pathetic. Round two should involve her being punished, put in the hoosegow for a good long time.
Yeah, and by the way, if she gets arrested, of course, immediately there will be demands for her release from governments in Europe and elsewhere in the West, as there were last time. Which every single time, this is a big part of what pisses me off about Israel's response to this stuff. Every single time, Israel's response should be, pointing out at the very least, and I know objectivists don't like this, pointing out the hypocrisy at the very least of these countries and saying, well, why don't you release, murderers and traitors and whoever it is that's in your prisons? Anyway, let me get to a few comments here. Yeah.
Hostage situation, though. She keeps running back into the arms of her hostage takers. No, that is just such a fraud on the face of it. No one could take it seriously. I mean, the absurd thing that would come out of her mouth, I'm a hostage again. I've been kidnapped again. Well, you keep running into their arms, running into their conflict. It's your own damn fault. And you're interfering with a war, with actually warfare going on. You deserve to be in prison.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, actually, it's not a super chat, but thank you anyway. Enric says in the chat, are they just idiots or purposely setting fires to support their ideology? Yes.
Yes. Yes and yes.
One of our regular trolls in the chat says that would be a war crime. Now, I don't know what he's referring to, but I know it doesn't matter what he's referring to. Anything we say here is supporting Israel's right and the right of Jews not to be exterminated. And
Yeah.
when these people use a term like war crime, they mean Jews not
If
agreeing
that word,
to be
if the
slaughtered.
concept war crime has any meaning, it's Greta who's guilty of a war crime. And she persists in her war crimes of attempting to support people who engaged in the atrocities of October 7th. She's acting in solidarity with an aggressor. It's the equivalent of being on the side of Nazi Germany during World War II. And any actions taken by someone else, in support of that is the war crime, supporting the giant war crime that was the Nazi Holocaust machine. Okay? You got it exactly backwards. Your moral priorities and concepts are completely inverted here. The war crime is Greta.
Yeah, I have to say I don't like at all the term war crime. Anybody who starts a war is already a criminal.
Yeah.
Like war is not something you ever do unless you are evil or unless you are forced into it. So if you are evil, you start a war, and if you are not, you defend yourself. And you defend yourself by ending the war as soon as possible, as decisively as possible, in a way that the enemy not just immediately can't continue it, but also will never, ever consider doing it again.
This is why I began with if the concept has meaning. Now, I could rescue a concept for having such meaning, I think, but using some objective facts. I mean, is it necessary when you go to war to rape and slaughter indiscriminately, torture people without good cause, do what is truly gratuitous violence? No, it's counterproductive to the war effort. Now, if you want to say that that is a violation of a moral code, and I think it is, I think it's immoral. And if you want to elevate that to the morality of nations during warfare and call that a war crime, it's clear who's committing the war crime here. It's Greta. She's overtly supporting the atrocities of October 7th, which themselves were giant war crimes. The aggressor here, the Hamas, is the one engaged in atrocities, engaged in a kind of warfare that is completely unmorally justifiable, and she's there actively trying to materially support them. It'd be like someone actively trying to support Adolf Hitler building concentration camps.
Paul asks, Razi, whilst I remember, are you going to cover the Spanish Prime Minister's comments? Possibly, yeah. I mean, we've covered Spain. I'm a little bit disgusted. I'm disgusted with a lot of what we talk about, but I don't know if yeah, I'm not super enthusiastic about it, but probably. It always depends on what else comes up. Hopefully, whatever didn't work in Qatar will work next time, which hopefully will be soon. Although Trump already promised them that it's not going to happen again. But
Oh,
yeah,
God. Yeah.
let's hope there are more interesting things and more positive things to talk
More
about. But if not, then yes. Um, okay. I don't know if I thanked you, Jeff, so I will thank you maybe again for the super chat. I want to go back to this video, and again, it's interesting how the video, the one on the top that we saw there, starts at a certain point. It's and the flare, whatever it was coming down on the ship, starts at a certain point. Even from different angles, it starts at the point where whatever it was came down on the ship. It very much reminds me of the settler violence videos. You always see those videos starting clearly not at the time that whatever the incident is started, which does not prove that it wasn't what it claims to be, but it raises a question, and then additional questions can be raised when you consider who the people making the claim are, what kind of claims have they made in the past. Greta sailed right into Israel last time, was arrested because she broke the law, claimed she was a hostage, was sent away after being asked to maybe watch some videos by Hamas, then landed in Paris, called it Israeli propaganda, which she refused to watch. Very interesting when you're arrested and you can refuse things. So yeah, all things considered, you should consider the source if nothing else.
Yeah, people who refuse to see the facts are themselves being dishonest. Whatever the state, whatever deluded state she's worked her own mind into, the real crime here, there are people people will use it as an excuse. Well, that was their judgment at the time. Well, if their judgment at the time is based on evasion of facts, if they're not even interested in the facts, then they're being dishonest. Then their opinion is dishonest. Their viewpoint is dishonest. She's not even interested in the facts. She's not interested in reality. She doesn't care about the atrocities that occurred on October 7th. She would still have this position. That is a despicably dishonest position. But most lies begin as lies to ourselves inside our head. So I don't want to imagine the tangled Byzantine mess of lies she's telling herself that justifies in her own mind a refusal to even consider the facts of October 7th. But evasion, as Ayn Rand taught, is the source of all evil. And you can really hear it out loud in practice. My evil is predicated on my evasion of reality, is what she's saying in effect. But, Israel is engaged in a certain degree of evasion when they just give her a ham sandwich, show her a movie, and send her home. Okay?
And a plastic bottle of water.
And a plastic bottle of water, as I recall, yes.
Yeah, Greta, we talk about, there are many people on these boats. We talk about Greta because we already knew who she was before when she was preaching to us from when she was a kid that we have to turn off the lights for all of us and basically go back to the Stone Age. Then she saw Hamas slaughter and live stream their slaughter of civilians and was so inspired by that she dropped that issue, became a Hamas activist, walking around with those Palestine soccer jersey style things that are made of polyester, by the way. Very, very, very interesting transition. But there are other people just as evil as her. Let's see the rest of the video. There might be a bit more of what was going on, but then there's a little interview with somebody we've already talked about here on this channel.
We've been hit!
Unfortunately, we have to tell the world that once again, our non-violent humanitarian and solidarity mission to Gaza to break the siege and to create a humanitarian corridor has been attacked.
Okay, let's pause here.
team that
It's it's difficult to memorize things sometimes. You see, he has these taglines that he knows in his mind is bullshit, but he has to repeat them, and he's kind of stuck on them. The one thing you'll also see on this guy's humanitarian figure is the whatchamacallit, with the map of Israel. So he's standing there clearly saying with what he's wearing that he wants to see the Jewish state with everybody in it wiped off the map. This is Thiago Avila, by the way. I think we did either a whole episode about him or just an episode where we talked about him a lot. Yeah, these people, again, these people are telling us who they are all the time, and somehow the way it's reported in the press, even in this Guardian video where, as you saw, it says at some point that Tunisia says this did not happen. Yeah, we're still hearing the Hamas narrative from these people as if it's perfectly legitimate. People have different views.
He proudly displays his violent intentions, his anti-Semitic hatred. He openly displays it. And then he says that breaking a siege in a warfare is nonviolence. I mean, these people get away with Orwellian newspeak, even as they're engaged in self-violence, in effect. Here, they're bringing and using fireworks. They're doing it themselves and screaming nonviolence at the same time, even as they're making clear their own violent intentions against Israel. No, this is so typical of the way things are analyzed too in the West. They know they're playing to it. They're doing it for their own PR purposes, obviously, but they want to get a headline and they wanted to get noticed. These people are desperate in their desire to get to think of that in terms of their self-esteem issues and stuff. But I'm not their therapist. But in any case, they're obviously doing it to get attention. And what are they doing? They're hurting themselves. And then, we've been hit, we've been hit. Now, nothing inspires more contempt in me than people who engage in self-harm and then cry, "Oh, they hit me, he hit me, he hit me, he hit me." That is utterly despicable. In fact, what it does is it relies upon an implicit understanding of self-defense and the reaction, if you really are violent. But there they are out there engaged in how many different ways? Announcing their violent intention, trying to break a siege as if that's not violent, and then using fireworks to make a display that makes it seem like. Now, is danger to them? Absolutely. Do they endanger themselves? Absolutely. But they're willing to go that far in the lie. They're willing to go that far in the lie. Absolutely astonishing.
Yeah, and the whole method of attacking and then claiming to be the victim is Palestinianism. That's what it's always been.
That is.
Palestinianism is the ideology of exterminating the Jews, loving death more than we love life, as they tell us, and acting on it. So yeah, these people are adopting it and not so much adapting to it, I guess, because they seem uncomfortable, but uh, growing pains, I guess. Do you want to see if the guy has any other words of wisdom? Daniel?
The team that was on the boats, they spotted a drone approaching. This drone flew above the boat, went to the front of the boat, to the bow of the boat, and dropped an explosive device that put the boat on fire. The crew fought this fire, they finished this fire, and then we are having, unfortunately, to tell the world that once again, a mission full of humanitarian aid, full of medicine, full of food for children that are being starved in Gaza has been attacked, has been temporarily stopped.
So, yeah, again, interestingly, I'm going to repeat this. We have footage from them from various angles, but when it comes to the actual drone itself, we have Thiago Avila's word that the team on the boat saw a drone circling. It wasn't just, it wasn't just a drone that passed by really quickly. It was circling, but none of the cameras caught it, but they did catch the moment of attack from various angles without catching the drone from which the attack came. And again, the we need to really condemn media outlets that report this without saying, hang on, haven't we been here before? Haven't we been here with Hamas, with Al Ali Hospital, with repeated claims that every single time turn out to be false when there's an attempt to verify, and when we can't try to verify, we don't know, but we report it anyway. No, you're repeating these Hamas activists' lies when you can very clearly see they don't believe they're telling the truth, but they're giving you the word of their other co freedom fighters.
In order to supply one side of a war, in order to supply the combatants, because who's going to get this aid that they're sending there? Hamas. So in order to supply the combatants in one side of a war, they call it a peace mission. That's the first lie. But then they're willing to engage in absolute dishonesty straight down the line. There was no drone. They're hoping we believe their lies. They think that lie is somehow noble. No, they're engaged in an act of war. They have a violent intention against Israel, and they cover it up with all of this Orwellian newspeak that the Western media wants to suck up and buy. That's exactly what it is. Given the fact that Hamas uses their own civilians intentionally, given the fact that this is, as you point out, their strategy, these people are simply agents of Hamas. They're not merely useful idiots. They're active agents for the cause the cause of Hamas's war effort. Full stop. They are Hamas. They are October 7th, and they have to realize that. There is no starvation in Gaza, as we pointed out many times. Unfortunately, Israel in America keep insisting on feeding these people, which is counterproductive to any war effort. But these people are hell-bent on supplying directly Hamas as the war still wages in Gaza. Conclude what you will from that.
We only have a couple of minutes, but I want to, we often point out some of the stuff that the trolls in the chat say when it's, pure anti-Semitic stuff. But I love it when they try to make an actual argument, even though they're repeating the same arguments that we've heard before. And one of them is now saying, verify what? Zionist regime doesn't allow independent journalists. Yeah, that's one of my favorites, because again, the verify what question. First of all, if you don't have information, you don't report stuff because you don't know. Whatever reason, if you don't know stuff, do not report it. That is the basic thing in journalism. You have to know, and you have to at least attempt to verify. You have to say, we have no idea what's going on if you don't have any idea. But it's very, very interesting that
I don't know.
the same people, James, who tell us that more journalists have died in Gaza, in a given day in the war than humans have lived in the entire history of mankind,
Well, the
are
number of
also telling
Hamas.
us there are no journalists. So
Yes.
they're telling us to trust everything we hear from journalists who are, getting killed, while also there are no journalists. It's very, very fascinating
When
stuff.
America engaged in its
Terrorist war.
recent warfare, it had journalists embedded with the troops. IDF allows that as well. There are American journalists embedded with IDF who send reports to America all the time, in the same exact fashion in which America allows journalists in war zones. If you're a journalist out there on the other side, helping the other side, or just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, it is your own damn fault if you get hit by a bomb. It's a war zone. Journalists have a brave enough task when they're embedded with an army. But the point is, you do it right or you don't do it at all. Now, that's one thing. But in the face of every lie we've been told about Hamas, look, just a few months ago, they had to cut in half the number of women and children they said were killed. Their numbers are still not believable. But you're right, the hospital, you name it, you go down a whole list of lies. At some point, sir, what the journalists have to say is, we don't know. You don't repeat lies. You do not repeat what you know are statements coming from repeated liars either, without saying this is a big fat lie, or you don't, or you just simply say I don't know. That's responsible journalism. Otherwise, the journalism itself is a lie.
Yeah, PB Law says the fake drone was their excuse to not have to go to Israel where arrests awaited them. Maybe, look, I don't think they're afraid of being arrested in Israel because they know the law doesn't apply to them. As we saw last time, if you're just a random Israeli trying to go help Gazans, the law will apply to you. But if you're one of these people, the law does not. But still, your theory is more plausible than what I hear in mainstream media, and I somehow think your theory won't make it to mainstream media. And there's a question there why. We're gonna, we report, you decide, James. Yeah, don't sue me, Fox. James, party thoughts?
No, it's just Greta is a truly evil and despicable human being. She really is. You'll notice it with her faux outrage. Is she motivated by a kind of morality? Yeah, a twisted morality, a morality that permits her to interfere with a war going on behalf of the bad guys. She is engaged in all kinds of self-deception, I'm sure, but at this level, it's quite obvious she's also engaged in overt deception. She and all of this flotilla thing, overt deception on behalf of the perpetrators of October 7th.
Qatar has threatened to respond to Israel's attempt yesterday to get rid of Hamas's leadership, which Qatar has been harboring. I would very, very much like to see that happen, because I think if that doesn't happen, Israel will not try again. And if it does happen, hopefully it will start something in the direction of Qatar, the Qatari government. I'm not even talking about the Hamas people there, but Qatar, the Qatari regime, getting what it deserves, which is to be removed from existence. That is the topic of today's episode of the reality show, which starts in a couple of minutes. Thanks, James. Thanks, everybody, for watching. The reality show starts soon.
Be safe.